hear Our Holy Father, Pope Francis.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buongiorno e benvenuti.
Dear brothers and sisters, good morning and welcome.
Sabato e domenica scorsi mi sono recato a Malta.
Last Saturday and Sunday I traveled to Malta, an apostolic journey that had been planned for quite some time. Not many people know about Malta, even though it is an island in the middle of the Mediterranean. It received the gospel very early because the Apostle Paul was shipwrecked near its coasts and miraculously saved himself, along with all those on the ship with him, more than 270 people. The book of the Acts of the Apostles recounts that the Maltese welcomed all of them with these words, with unusual kindness. This is important. Don't forget it. With unusual kindness. I chose these very words, with unusual kindness, as the motto of my journey because they indicate the path to follow, not only in the face of the phenomenon of migrants, but more generally, so that the world might become more fraternal, more livable, and might be saved from the shipwreck that menaces all of us. For we are all, as we have learned, in the same boat, all of us. Viewed from this horizon, Malta is a key place. Above all, it is so geographically, due to its position in the center of the sea between Europe and Africa, that also bathes Asia. Malta is sort of a windrose where peoples and cultures meet. It is a perfect place to observe the Mediterranean area from a 360-degree perspective. Today we often hear about geopolitics, but unfortunately the dominant logic is the strategies of the most powerful countries to affirm their own interests, extending their area of economic influence or ideological influence or military influence, even through war. In this scheme, Malta represents the rights and the power of the small nations, small but rich in history and civilization, that should lead to another logic, that of respect and freedom, of the logic of liberty, of the coexistence of differences opposed to the colonization by the most powerful. After the Second World War, the attempt was made to lay the foundations of a new era of peace, but unfortunately we don't learn. Unfortunately, the old story of competition between the greater powers went on, and in the current war in Ukraine, we are witnessing the impotence of the international organizations. The second aspect. Malta is a key place regarding the phenomenon of migration. In the John XXIII Welcome Center, I met numerous migrants who landed on the island after terrible journeys. We must never tire of listening to their testimonies, because only in this way can we emerge from a distorted vision that is often circulated in the mass media. And their faces, their stories, their wounds, their dreams, and their hopes, these migrants can emerge. Every migrant is unique. They're not a number, they're a person like you or I. Every migrant is unique, and is a person with, every migrant is a person with dignity, with roots, with culture. Each of them is the bearer of a wealth infinitely greater than the problems that welcoming them might entail. We can't forget that Europe was made by immigration. Certainly, welcoming them must be organized and supervised, and first, much earlier, it must be planned together at an international level. The phenomenon of migration cannot be reduced to a crisis. It is a sign of our times. It should be read and interpreted as such. It can become a sign of conflict, or on the other hand, a sign of peace. It depends on us. Those who gave life to the John the 23rd Center on Malta made the Christian choice. That's why it's called Peace Lab, the Laboratory of Peace. But I'd like to say that Malta in its entirety is a laboratory for peace. All this attitude towards peace and it can realize its mission if it draws the sap of fraternity, compassion, and solidarity from its roots. The Maltese people have received these values together with the gospel, and thanks to the gospel, they will be able to keep them alive. For this reason, as Bishop of Rome, I went to confirm that people in the faith and in communion. In fact, the third aspect, Malta is the key place from the perspective of evangelization as well. From Malta and from Gozo, the country's two dioceses, many priests and religious, and even many lay faithful left to bring their Christian witness all over the world. It's like Paul's passage there left the mission in the DNA of the Maltese. For this reason, my visit was above all an act of gratitude to God and to the holy faithful people from Malta and Gozo. Nevertheless, the wind of secularism, of a globalized pseudo-culture based on consumerism, neo-capitalism, and relativism blows there as well. Therefore, it is time for the new evangelization there as well. Like my predecessors, the visit that I made to the Grotto of St. Paul was like drawing from the spring, so that the gospel might flow through Malta with the freshness of its origins and revive its great heritage of popular religiosity. This is symbolized in the National Marian Shrine of Tepinu on the island of Gozo, where we celebrated an intense moment of prayer. There I heard the heart of the Maltese people beat. They have an immense trust in their Holy Mother. Mary always brings us back to the essentials, to Christ crucified and risen for us, and for us, but also to His merciful love. Mary helps us to revive the flames of faith by drawing from the Holy Spirit's flame that enlivens generation after generation to the joyful proclamation of the gospel. For the joy of the Church is to evangelize. Don't forget this. We can't forget this. St. Paul VI gave this phrase: the vocation of the Church is to evangelize. The joy of the Church is to evangelize. Let's not forget this. It's a beautiful description of the Church. I take this opportunity to renew my gratitude to the President of the Republic of Malta, thanks to him and to his family, also to the Prime Minister, and to the other civil authorities who welcomed me with such kindness, as well as the bishops and to all the members of the ecclesial community, to the volunteers, and to all who accompany me in prayer. I don't want to forget to mention the center, the John the 23rd Center for Welcoming. They're continuing to work with their co-workers in the dioceses. It's an example of the apostolate for the
ma è il Signore che fa.
In fact, we sow, but it is the Lord who gives the growth. May His infinite goodness grant abundant fruit of peace and every good to the Maltese people. Thank you, and thank you to the people of Malta for their very human, very generous kindness in welcoming me. The Holy Father's reflection on his visit to Malta this past weekend. And now we have the greetings in the various languages we previously heard, beginning with French. The speaker, as you can hear, is greeting the Holy Father. He then greets the faithful of his language, and then gives a summary of the catechesis that we've just heard. As I mentioned, we will not be providing a translation of the summaries, as they are essentially the same for each of the different languages. After the summary, the Holy Father offers a few words of greetings to all the people who speak those languages. And after the Holy Father offers his greetings in Italian, for the most